Good afternoon, all the participants of our week-long journey of the Science Leadership Workshop. We are coming to an end. This is one of the penultimate talk, Professor Ramarao Poduri. Professor Rao he was working here in this Central University. Of course, he was actually working for a long time as Dean Academic Affairs. And almost 40 years of illustrious career as a teacher and a scientist. He is now superannuating on this 30th of this month. So it's a very special occasion, and I'm really privileged to have you here, sir, with us. He has been working in the fields of pharmacology, toxicology, and he is an excellent teacher as well with with several of the institute that he taught. Awarded prestigious IASTAM Dr. KM Parikh Award in 2018, ISCB Award for Excellence in 2009, and many more awards. And his education PhD is from Benares Hindu University and postdoc experience from Harvard University. Expertise in the field of pharmacology, pancreatitis, opioid receptors, tolerance and dependence, and diabetes. He served as director of the prestigious National Institute of Pharmacological Education and Research, that is NIPER, in Mohali, and also NIPER Mohali again from 2000 to 2004. So 2 terms, almost 8 years he spent in NIPER Mohali. He's an expert in academic drug discovery, preclinical trials, and coordination with the translational researchers to achieve the success. So well versed with ecosystem of higher educational system in India and evaluation of the educational organizations. So without wasting much time, I also want to add that Professor Rao is my own mentor. I finished my PhD in Japan, and then I came back in 2010 when I started my career in this Central University of Punjab along with Dr. Sanjeev Thakur. We together when the Professor Rao guided us the basics of teaching and how to manage the career, a life of an academician, and how to manage the process, purchase process, tender, everything A to Z. He was actually my mentor, and he's something like my own father. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting my humble request to be with us. And along with me here, the session is co-moderated by Dr. Preeti Kedarpal. She herself is a young science leader specialized in IPR from Department of Human Genetics. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Felix. I welcome Professor P. Ramarao, distinguished guest and speaker of this session. I also welcome our participants. I'm sure this session will be really useful for everyone, especially the young faculty and research scholars who are facing initial hiccups in their career. As Dr. Felix has truly said, Professor P. Ramarao had been our mentor, and he was the founder professor among those founder faculty members, senior members for our university. And because of your hard work and talent, our university is among the top university of among all the newly established university. So thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for accepting our request. I welcome all of you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I think 1 o'clock is always a very tricky time, just before lunch or after lunch. Thanks for actually the nice introduction. And I hope all of you are actually the safe in this lockdown period and doing actually the academic activities. See, the fundamental aspect today, as a teacher, I'm not going to use PowerPoint presentation. So I will explain my views on actually your topic, the science leadership and research ecosystem. I think yesterday, Dr. Dhawan already touched with ecosystem of the institutes. I mainly talk about educational institutions, ecosystems. What are the problems actually faced by the young researchers, and how actually as working in the various aspects. I also started my career as like you somewhere around 40 years back, and then rose to this position. So during that period, what are the hardships I faced, and how actually we have actually overcome and what we can do or the leader can do to the young budding scientists, that we will actually talk about it. So now, first of all, when we talk about the science leadership, that is what exactly given in this particular case, what a leader can do. That is the fundamental question we have to answer. Leader is also one of the human being like all of you. Only thing is, he is more experienced or he might have born earlier to you. And in that particular case, with his experience, he is trying to solve actually the various aspects and becoming a facilitator of your actually the careers in that particular case. So we have to look into what are the general problems, that means day-to-day problems, what a research scholar or actually the young faculty member who has chosen this profession faces, and how actually we can guide them. That means we have to, a leader has to strike a balance between the stakeholders. What are the stakeholders? The faculty members, the research scholars, and the officials on one hand, and for the leader, we also have the ministries. We have to strike a balance between these two actually spheres and then make actually solutions to various and find out an equilibrium and make it successful. So in that particular case, now I was actually going through some of the questions raised by the audience in the previous lectures in this series. A lot of actually people expressed that the duration of the PhD, it is taking 6 to 7 years, one aspect. Second aspect is the problems a researcher or young researcher do face is how to get the literature, that is accessibility of the literature, and then actually equipment, softwares, and computational time. So now in this particular case, how in 1979, when I started my career or starting the research career, 78, I started my research career for doing my master's program in actually pharmaceutical sciences, pharmacology. So majority of my actually examples will be in the drug discovery aspects and how actually this particular problem
Participant, I think our router got disconnected. We will just wait for a while. Please stay tuned. He's just coming, right? Please stay tuned. Professor Rao is having some issues with internet. Please stay tuned. Okay, so he is coming right back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back, sir. Yes, we can see you, sir. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can see you. Go ahead, sir. We can see you, sir. Go
Hello?
ahead. Hello, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Voice is coming?
Yes, yes. All is well.
Okay, thank you. Sorry
No
for the
problem.
disturbance. I was talking about the problems what we face. Okay, so in this particular case, with my experience with the teaching, I would like to tell you people how these problems can overcome. In 1978-79, when I was working for my master's certification, that is in March to June, there was a big, actually, the power cut in the morning times in Banaras Hindu University. So the power used to go at 9 a.m. and it used to come at 6 p.m. So in that particular case, I used to go to the lab with my, actually, the mentor who is in US FDA, start the work at 2:50 a.m. 3 o'clock we used to start, and we used to do the experiment simultaneously and complete the quantitative pharmacology of adrenergic receptors. So in that particular case, we have to find out how actually the same day, the data after 6 p.m., we used to calculate and plan the next day experiments. So you may not be knowing the difficulties what our actually the generation faced in those days. So today we have genset in every university or institution, majority of the places, and one can actually plan the experimentation very fruitfully without much actually the interruptions. So with this particular thing, when I submitted my thesis dissertation for masters, the results came after 3 months. It used to go to the external examination. That was on September 10th. By the time that year, I could not join actually lecturership in Banaras University, the leave vacancy positions, because my result was not there. On September 10th, 1979, I was facing an interview in down south, I think in Warangal. So there also they asked the same question. Why I remember this date is In Benares, that day the same result was declared. We do not have the WhatsApp or emails at that time, and I could not get the result. So that's why, though I am not interested in industry, I had to end up in industry that year in a leading pharmaceutical company in the north, in New Delhi area. So we have to tune ourselves and take the challenges, what it actually comes to us, and find out solutions to the various problems. So the immediate, within 3 months, November I joined, and within 3 months they said, you have to undergo the drug control authorities approvals, and that is the pharmacology lab. So in that particular case, again, within actually 3 months of joining, being in charge of that lab, I had to face a lot of actually things to complete the assignment and reach the case successfully. And very next day, my quality assurance manager said, you have done a good job. We got actually the approval because that laboratory used to test the raw materials for other organizations in New Delhi area. So from there, actually, I again joined my alma mater next year. And while a teaching candidate, I was doing my PhD. So in that particular case, I'm a teacher PhD candidate. Normal actually 3 years. They will give additional 2 years to complete the thesis because of the teaching load. You may be surprised to know I was against a leave vacancy. They said you cannot teach your pharmacology subject. You have to teach other subjects which people are on leave. So with that, I have actually enhanced my horizon of the subjects, and you may be surprised to know at that time I was having 35 hours of teaching load. So from that, actually the thing, I used to curse, why did I actually join this post? How can I do my PhD? But the thing is, perseverance, we have to face and complete it, the PhD program. Already I'm married also, you can understand the difficulties of the families. And then luckily, I got the break once the results are out in 86, PhD submission. And I got actually opportunity to go to University of Illinois, where I worked on drug abuse. There, it was actually, I learned how actually we have to work out. While doing the PhD at that time, when I reported my results to one of the European journal, I sent around 12 pages my manuscript. In return, I got something around 12 pages comments. Because at that time, we have to make so many assumptions because the facilities are not there. Those the reviewers do not understand what difficulties we have at that time in India, and they write why you have not used it, what are the reasons for this particular thing, and the code used to be sent complete list. So I went to my supervisor and I said, I can give the rebuttal. There are so many papers like that. You said, forget about it. You do your work. With that, actually, the negative responses from the international publications, we had to complete our PhD and getting the postdoctoral training. When I went and landed in the Illinois Chicago laboratory, I completed actually a particular project in 45 days. My boss said, okay, supervisor said, why don't you submit this paper to the journal? I said, I worked only a small piece of work. Will it get published? That was my question. I said, forget about it. You write down and I will send it. Yes, he edited and he sent. Within 15 days, without any comment, it got accepted. I was actually flabbergasted. When we worked here in India so much time and did more actually quantitative work, just in 40 days work, the paper actually published in an American journal, but that is a national journal for America. So that particular concept I did not understand. When we actually do the publications from here, we do not get actually easy responses in those days. But however, it was a hello.
Yes, sir. I think you got disconnected in
Is it
between.
audible?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay.
Your video
Hello.
is not there. Video, please.
Okay. In that particular case, what I want to convey, we do good work from India. I was actually talking today morning to Felix. He was actually saying that the Indian science, you talk about Indian science and the mention about the various aspects, how ancient India people have worked. In my area, what can I say? Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita. Charaka Samhita is somewhere around 2nd century CE, Common Era. In that particular case, he talked about the various aspects of the drug and the actual indigenous drugs available at that time, how to treat actually the patients. Similarly, Sushruta is a surgeon. He performed the plastic surgery as well as actually the neurosurgery at that time, somewhere around 6th century. Several other examples are there when you talk about Aryabhatta and everything. So what I want to convey in this particular case to the youngsters who are sitting and listening, that the Indian science is from the ancient days. Whenever we talk about the science, it is actually the human endeavor, and it is the only species who work on science. There is nobody else. Others only they participate in that particular thing, animals. But we understand the science and we carry out for actually the betterment of the mankind. And in that particular case, scientists are doing it. And one of the important aspects of the science, whatever you do it, it is the only activity of the human beings which is critically analyzed, and if any corrections are there, self corrections are reported. This is the only activity we can understand how the science is actually criticized and getting actually the published, and for the betterment of the aspects. That is what exactly we have to understand, how the science is played a critical role in the development of the humankind, and it is finding out the solutions. In this particular case, what is my fundamental point is to explain to you, we have to have an open mind, and we have to think a wildest imagination. Any actually the scientist must have a wildest imagination and researcher, and he has to follow it up and looking into the future activities. If you remember now, in 2015, your Microsoft in charge, that is the Bill Gates, he predicted, he gave the video conference talking about it is not the nuclear weapons, it is going to be microbe which is going to create actually havoc in near future. That is what we are seeing it. Nobody listened, nobody taken actually hint from that particular prediction, and we are facing the pandemic and several actually today's information when we grow, more than actually 1 crore people affected, and somewhere around 5 lakh people throughout the world are actually diseased. In India also, the numbers have reached infected 5 lakhs, and it is somewhere around 17,000 already the people have diseased. So in this particular case, any scientist who are actually the planning, he has to actually look into the future and try to understand what it is happening, and he himself or herself have to mold to the current requirements of the society and develop this particular aspect. So in that particular case, we have to have the encourage. Yesterday also, I think that Dr. Dhawan was actually talking about, we have to encourage the risk. Certainly, we have to take actually the risk, and we have to encourage the risk factor. But at the same time, whoever is doing at the PhD, they have to take calculated risk and they complete the PhD. Once you are in actually the job, and you can start actually using your hypothesis and excellent. So in that particular case, the mentors are the leaders who are actually guiding the research scholars. They have to actually look into whether the ideas which are coming from the researchers are actually the workable hypothesis is there or not. Are they talking about blue sky research without any purpose? So the blue sky research is a very common actually word nowadays being used for the academic research. People work out so many fancy things, but immediate actually the output is not there and benefit to the society. So the scientist, whoever is working on the various aspects, look into uh, the societal benefits, and we have to find out how actually these things needs to be carried out. Today, the major crisis in the science, especially I talk about biomedical sciences, the question which is coming here is the reproducibility of the data. The one of the fundamental issue which is coming into the picture. That means either the replication of the data or lack of complete methodologies they have followed, and several actually preclinical studies which have been done in the drug discovery aspects from the academic institutions, they could not actually reproduced by the industry people, and that is one of the reason why the drug approves, the number of the drugs approved in early, that means 2000 to 2010 part, it is declined very much, and people have talked about drying of the pipelines. That means nothing is coming actually into the pipeline to develop into that particular aspect. Another aspect when we are talking about it is few incidences which occurred in 1940s in the drug discovery aspects, and in early 60s, the thalidomide incident and phocomelia, the drug regulatory authorities have become so strict, and because of that particular aspect, the process of from the bench, that means the discovery lab side, to bringing it to bed, it has actually going to 20 years. Now, how to reduce this particular period is major question. All this particular period, drug discovery, if it is taking 20 years, bringing out a new drug into the market is estimated to cost around $2.87 billion somewhere in 2016 data. So in that particular case, we have to understand the safety, reliability of the data, actually just publishing the data. Another actually the drawback which I actually observed are a lot of actually the reports are indicating that the misinterpretation or misutilization of the statistical analysis in the data published. So in that particular case, a statistically significant data may not necessarily the biologically and useful phenomena. So people actually talk about it. I have seen several actually the examples stating that thing, oh, it is highly significant, P is less than 0.001. That is nothing but rejection of the null hypothesis but not indication of the biological significance of that particular data. We have to understand this particular aspect. Yes, so that's why my fundamental suggestion or the fundamental requirement of a scientist who are to be in the field, they must understand a full grasp of the subject. Without understanding the basics and keeping abreast with the latest literature and the technologies, we are not in a position to compete in this global era. So the fundamental point which emphasizing is we have to clear the concepts and bring into this particular thing to be a successful, and the science leaders or the mentors who are training the thing must give importance to this particular aspect.
So please stay tuned. Looks like there is some problem with the browser. Preeti, can you confirm? Dr. Preeti?
Yes. Participants, please stay tuned. There seems to be some internet issues. Please stay tuned with us.
Yes, sir. We can see you.
Is it all right?
Yeah, all right.
Sorry for the disturbance. I think today being Sunday, a lot of people might be using the bandwidth. The bandwidth may be decreasing. I think maybe. Anyway, what I want to convey the message is one is the statistics. Reproducibility point, when I'm talking about it, I myself faced one of the biggest problem is I was asked to do in pancreatitis, the pancreatic SNR radioligand binding studies in Harvard, and IP3 estimations, intracellular calcium determinations. We have completed in an opossum. Opossum is a marsupial and everything. With the hypothesis, my previous postdoc, what he reported, there is no pancreatic secretion in opossums. So with that, actually, I was asked to do whether the receptors, the cholecystokinin receptors are there in pancreas of the opossum and in the rat comparison, and do whether they are signaling mechanism, transmembrane signal mechanisms are there. I have completed my portion. Then they said, okay, you do the previous postdocs data is not available. Do the experiment of pancreatic juice secretion from the opossum. I did in vivo. To my utter surprise, I got a positive result. This is previous postdoc work. I did not start. I did not actually recheck before all doing this thing. And I disclosed on Wednesday group meeting. They said they did not believe the fundamentally. I thought actually probably I'm an Indian. I do not know. Or the previous postdoc is a German. So in that particular case, they made it a point. And then they said, okay, I'm coming tomorrow. You put up again experiment. I will see. My group leader, who is a pancreatic transplantation surgeon, all the surgeons in Harvard, they also must have a basic sciences laboratory under their control. So he came to the lab first time, and in front of him, I performed the experiment in autoanalyzer, Cobas autoanalyzer. When I put the sample, this is I'm talking about 1990 story. It has amylase secretion has come in the pancreatic juice. I explained, I showed actually there is a septum is there in the common pancreatic duct. So bile duct and this thing, there is a septum. If the cannula goes into that septum, no pancreatic juice will come. So 1 second he has taken the decision, then it is of no use in this particular case. We are not going to report this result, just actually the binding data. So that's why I said reproducibility of the data in the different models is one of the essential aspect a particular scientist must do it, and not only in one model, in number of models this needs to be actually checked, then perform this particular experiment. And coming to this thing, we have to give the capacity building to the people to work. So in that particular case, I got the opportunity as an hyper director. So in that during that period, we have created a lot of facilities. I got actually the regulatory toxicology laboratory, which is a GLP complied to study the toxicity testing, and several other actually the during that period, the ministry said your number of the students is less, per capita consumption is very high. Your expenditure nearly 14 lakhs per student. So in that particular case, how you decrease this thing, that was the ministry's call to me. So I had to introduce non-wet laboratory courses such as pharmacoinformatics, the pharmaceutical practice, pharmacy practice, and then we have also introduced a sectorial MBA, that is after BPharm, they can do pharmaceutical management to understand IPR issues and the transfer of technology issues. It is being taught. These are non-wet laboratories, but still with their actually the science background, they are actually doing very good in computational sciences and molecular modeling. This is one of the point how we have to change ourselves to the situation and make it actually the fundamental point and meet the requirements. So whoever is coming into this field, the mentors have to actually with the consultation and innovation. Yesterday, I think Dr. Dhawan was talking about it. So in that particular case, we have to innovate it. We have to the translate the basic research, whatever we have done. We have to understand translation into the product. It is every funding agency is now asking, we want a product rather than the basic research. Blue sky research is not there. We want actually the end product. So getting an end product in the drug discovery, it is a multidisciplinary approach. It is a cross-culture phenomena should be there. We have to get along with the different, actually, the aspects of the people's
Looks like there is some problem. Dr. Preeti, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, it is audible.
Yeah, please
So,
stay tuned. Let us wait for a while. There seems to be some problem at Rouser's side. Yes, sir. You're fine now.
Okay. With that, actually, with the, sorry for the interruptions, what I want to conclude in this particular case is, yes, certainly a scientific leader do get actually the opportunities as well as the challenges. We have to take those challenges and try to be innovative, and within the budget, actually the requirements of our sanctioned budget, we have to achieve the objective. So this only comes with your hard work, perseverance, and actually the understanding and the aspect, and we must have the confidence in ourselves and self-respect. One of the things people do have a concept that whatever done in India is not good. That concept is not correct. Yes, certainly the conditions are actually a little bit tricky. We have to adapt to ourselves, and if we can successful in this country, we can be successful anywhere in the world. With this particular positive attitude, having the positive attitude, I request all of you to march ahead and in actually the national building, and to become self-sufficient and prepare to meet any other actually the eventualities which are going to come in our life. Thank you very much. Sorry for the inconvenience because of the repeated I do not know the connection. So this is first time I am facing. Thank you very much.
thank you so much,
Dr.
sir, for
Felix?
thank you so much, sir, for your
Hello.
informative and
Your
inspiring
voice is not
talk.
coming.
Hello.
Yeah, it's fine here. Maybe you have some problem.
Okay. 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 Hello.
Yes, over
Hello.
to Preeti. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for your informative and inspiring talk. And it is truly sad that we must avoid or among or in between the blue sky research or the research for we must do perform the research for the benefit of society. So we must avoid actually the blue sky research or the research which is actually irrelevant nowadays, because obviously money is precious. All this money is public money. And capacity building is very important for the institutions. So thank you so much, sir. Now we have a lot of questions. uh, some of these the questions, the Pallavi and Sidra Yakub, they want to know that big journals do not accept our papers until unless we have some international collaboration. So how can we convince the reviewer? And there is another similar question from Rupali. Rupali says that in spite of representation by so many good Indian scientists in international platforms and committees, there is still a mindset that Indians are inefficient at research. So why it is like this?
I will answer the second question first. This is a misconception. Indians are very loyal. This concept is very much actually every American or any abroad people, they know about it, how sincere we are and how actually hardworking we are in this particular aspect. So in that particular case, that point, yes, some people may have a feelings about actually the racism, but I'm not come across that particular thing, because our bosses were very actually this thing, they know our abilities, they know our sincerity, they know our loyalty in any field. And it's not only the science, in any field, in computer sciences or any other field, the foreigners know about our sincerity and our hardworking and our intelligence. Yes, certainly there may be some black sheeps may be there in that particular case. After going there, they may not be performing, or by hook or crook they are landing up there. That may be the one point. Coming to the second question, yes, nowadays from here also without any foreign collaborators we are publishing. It is a question of the completeness. We have to answer the each and every aspect what we have put in the objective, and we have to convincingly prove the findings. So the so many actually the papers are actually published from India. If you see my actually the CV, I'm not bragging myself. All my students' data have been published internationally, working from NIPER. So in that particular case, yes, we have to thorough in our hypothesis and our experimental design, and in completeness we have to answer. We cannot actually put vague answers and giving actually particular excuses. So that requires a lot of planning in the research design and execution of the various models. So I may not necessarily fully agree, but people complain this particular aspect. Yes, we have to have the writing skills, how to write a paper. I think hopefully these academies may actually organize for the youngsters how to write a scientific paper and methodically present it, the views. I hope actually the organizers may be listening this particular point and work out on this particular aspect.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. It's really inspiring and wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it, though there was some issues in between. So without wasting time, I will go with the questions. So I'll pick two questions together because they're very related. One is by Monica Kaur. Apparently, I came to know that she was a student of the convener, Professor Kohli, a long time back. Monica Kaur from Hansraj College, University of Delhi, is asking, when we were students, our guides wouldn't allow us to write a review. He would say that we should mature in research and then write a review. Now, students who come to enroll for the doctorate program come with 3 reviews. So, what is your take on it? So, related question by Shruti Dash. She is an Inspire Fellow from Sambalpur University in Odisha, is asking, sir, kindly suggest what is more important in comparison to publish a research paper or publish a review paper while doing the PhD?
See, the second question I'll answer first. You have to do the first literature survey, then only you can actually execute your project. First of all, formation of the hypothesis. When you have worked hard for actually collecting the review of the literature, which is nowadays very easy to do in this particular thing. When we were students, we have to go to biological abstract and chemical abstract, the hard copies, and that used to come 6 months late. Now today, right at this moment, very next day, you are getting the papers on internet. So in that particular case, a good review article and the gap analysis, one of the most important thing, review article means it is not compilation of the data. You have to do the gap analysis and that gap analysis is essential. That actually forms your hypothesis. What is actually missing in the previous works done? From there, you can actually plan your work in that particular case. Yes, review is essential. When you have done work for 6 months on the review, we say that particular thing, publish it. Review doesn't mean compilation of the data. You have to give a particular cogent discussion there of your opinion, what is missing and what can be done, can be written without disclosing what you are planning to do. So that is what is the review. That normally people write the review articles after having a good experience. That is, I'm more or less getting into the first question. I think Monica Cole, I think she is asked this particular question. So in that particular case, it all depends upon how much you have done the literature search and how much you grasped it, and whether you are able to actually contribute to that review article. Review article is not a compilation. A data processing operator can also actually review it and then can actually collect the information. But just actually compiling is not a review article, and you have to critically analyze the experiments, what others have done, and from there actually you have to give your actually the discussion points and find out the gaps for your research work. So in that particular case, unless you go through thoroughly these points, a review article automatically compilation will not be get published. Forget about nowadays n number of journals which are coming out because of the API scores, whatever that particular thing. I'm not talking about it. If you write a review article, it takes nearly 6 months, even for an expert also. So that is my opinion. Okay.
So, yes, true. So, we have now systematic reviews, meta-analysis, or review
Yes.
of reviews, which is actually, these are now published.
Yeah.
So, the next question comes from Malbika Bora. The question is, sir, do you think publication of paper should be considered as a major criteria for a good research and academic career?
It all depends upon the where you have published. Getting publication is nowadays so easy, in my opinion, because n number of journals are coming, and they are starting, and they are once they start, they invite the people to write the articles also. That's why I think Professor Kohli is listening already. So we see an established journal, that means at least it is having a standing of 10 years is a criteria who can take it. If you can publish it in those journals rather than the journals which are started actually very recently, if you publish it, they themselves are ready to invite you people. So we have to make it a good publication. A good publication in any journal will certainly attract actually the people and understand what you have written. See, the people want the quality rather than just actually what is that particular aspect. Yes, sir, to certain extent, a good journal publication should be taken into consideration for any evaluation criteria. I said good. The definition of good varies from person to person. We have to understand what is that particular thing, aspect. Yes.
Okay, so next question is by Gurpreet Singh Saini from Haryana is asking, there is an unfortunate trend or bias among reviewers of the top journals to sideline publications from developing countries in general. Chances are high that the mediocre papers submitted from Western Europe or Japan get accepted in top journals compared with the quality submissions from India. Do you agree? If so, what can we do to overcome this issue?
Now, to avoid this particular thing, I agree or disagree, that is the next question. To avoid this particular thing, certain journals are writing who reviewed that article also. So in that particular case, if that particular system is universally accepted, the probability of actually this biasedness, because when we are actually openly scrutinizing a particular paper and the name is coming, everyone would like to actually not to associate with a second-rated publication. So a good journals nowadays are actually publishing who reviewed this article also. So in that particular case, the biasedness can be decreased. Yes, it to some extent, okay, likes and dislikes, Darwin's principle is there. They may have some biasedness. I do not accept or I do not deny this particular factor, that particular thing. I am neutral in saying that particular aspect. Yes, because we have published from India also in international journals. So I may not agree completely. Yes, biasness maybe, aberrations are always there in any field. That is my opinion.
Yes. So next question comes from Shalini Das, and there is a similar question from Rishabh now. They want to know how COVID-19 is going to affect research and other sectors of life. Your views about it.
For the last 3 months, I am working on this aspect. Thanks for asking. I am already working these various aspects. Yes, one of the most thing we are talking education. It is going to be affected. Drastic changes are going to come, because I think 3 months back or 4 months back, none of us know what is, majority of us know, let me put it more correctly, majority of us know this webinars, really speaking. We never actually had an opportunity, or we never understood the mechanism and this particular tool we were never introduced. It is going to be a part in future. So the online teaching mode or this webinars will going to increase it. This is fundamental aspect. And coming to the point of the research, whether if you are seriously following it, I have not, because of the interruptions, I did not cover that thing. There is a database which is called CORD19. This is Corona Open Research Data Sets. It is having actually in the last 6 months, 1,58,000 papers have been actually put in this database throughout the world. Output, I'm talking from January. In reality speaking, it is February started, paper coming up. The one fundamental point what I want to tell you is they have put somewhere around 75,000 papers which are freely available, downloadable. And the point what I am actually worried about it is these are all preprints also included in this list. Preprint means it is neither reviewed nor actually accepted yet for publication. So in this particular case, this particular aspect needs to be very cautious in going through this database. Which one is an accepted paper? Which one is a preprint? Preprint means without any peer review, this as it is submitted, that from the server they are putting up open for this thing. This is one aspect. And we have already one particular case where the even Lancet paper has been withdrawn on COVID-19. Afterwards, the editors of Lancet, which is actually highly reputed journal, having actually a long history, more than 300 years of publication, in that particular case, they have retracted a paper stating that particular thing. The authors have not actually given the data set, whatever the data set. This clearly indicates that. Then afterwards, the editor has come out, the influence of the pharma industry on the editorial board. They have retracted, Lancet retracted a paper which is having somewhere around impact factor of 70, which you can understand how actually the research is going to be, our publications are going to be in future. If this pre-publication without review if they are published. And we are getting actually in this particular case disinformation, or which is now called as deep faking. Whether you talk about WhatsApp messages or any other actually the social media, or even actually the leaders of the well-known countries, they are talking aspects which without any evidence. So in this particular case, we have to be the scientists who have to be unbiased about these actually the statements, and they have to be more critical and analyze this particular data. So that is the necessity of the need of the hour. Thank you on this case.
Okay, I will pick up the next question from Nagalambige from Mysuru, Karnataka, asking, can you tell us something about your childhood? Who or which book influenced you to choose a career in science? Who were your mentors and role models?
Okay, it's a very good question. See, I studied in a school which is associated with a B.Ed and M.Ed college. It is a government college, and whenever actually wherever there is a B.Ed M.Ed is there, for the practical training, a school must be attached. So in that particular case, I studied in Rajahmundry, which is a government model school which is attached to an education college, government education college. We were given the lectures by the B.Ed as well as M.Ed students. We were practically, in my terminology, we were guinea pigs at that time. And the lecturers of the B.Ed college, they used to criticize the teachers in front of us. So that is how I got actually interested how to teach and how to deliver a lecture. The basic fundamentals, what I got. I have not got any induction program once I joined as a lecturer, but the question comes is, from the beginning, this particular training in a very good school and having all the facilities, practical facilities, created interest in me for the science subjects. That is one of the point I can give the credit to my training in a school which is having attached to government education college where B.Ed and M.Ed is there.
Dr. Preeti? Dr. Preeti?
So, hello, sorry.
Yes, yes.
So sorry. I hope I'm audible now.
Yeah,
The next,
sure.
okay. The next question again comes from the Malvika Bora. The question is, being from a rural area and education, getting educated, the doctorate from the university of some remote area, it leads to some limited exposure to international connection. So can we move towards being a good science leader, like if someone is having the education from remote areas? Over
Oh,
to you, sir.
certainly. Now with the media, whatever you talk, actually, the webinars, or you can access internet. Now, one of the interesting aspect is the literature. A lot of journals are freely available today in the COVID era. Or there are some illegal sites are also there, which are actually freely giving the articles. So in that particular case, you can download a lot of things. I don't think that rural, urban distinction will not be there any longer. With the digitalization, and India is marching ahead in that particular area, people, we actually conducted the classes, online classes during this period, and hardly in 1,000 students, there are a unit number of people are not able to access our classes. So in that particular case, I can say the rural area background are actually, yesterday, I think Alok Dhawan was also talking about, it is not actually the English language. You can also speak in any other language and understand the subject to reach the excellence. In fact, even I read first year BSc in Telugu medium. I can tell this particular thing openly. Of Telugu medium student, when I reached Banaras Hindu University, neither I know Hindi nor actually I know the English, but not so fluently because being a Telugu medium student. So we can understand now. We have to actually adopt ourselves to the system. अभी मैंने हिंदी भी बहुत अच्छी तरफ सीखा हूँ. हिंदी में भी बात कर सकता हूँ. यही मैं आप लोगों को कन्वे करना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी में जाने से पहले 6 साल, आने के बाद 5 साल वहां पढ़ाने के वजह से मेरा हिंदी में भी बोलने का आदत है, कैपेसिटी है समझाने का. हाँ ठीक है, कभी कभी ग्रामर मिस्टेक्स हो सकता है, लेकिन तभी भी हम अपना मैसेज कम्युनिकेशन very fluently we have to convey to the others. Then only our ideas will go across and it will give a fruitful results. That is my opinion.
Okay, I will take another question. Mao Sarkar from Kolkata is asking, I heard that you are a very punctual and productive taskmaster. How do you manage your time?
I do not know where from you got this information. Yes, I never late to any of my classes or actually going to the university. I always half an hour before my scheduled time. Once I give appointment, I actually available that time. I am normally 8 hours available in the office. Plus, it is 4 hours more than that. I used to stay whichever university I worked. How do I manage? Yes, it is all cooperation with my family members. Without their cooperation, I might have not concentrated my research or academic activities so much which I have done. Thank you for asking this question. I never actually faced this question. Thank you very much. Whoever asked that particular thing from, I think, Calcutta, West Bengal. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Dr. Preeti?
Yeah. Next question comes from Ritika Mohan. Sir, you have spent decades of your life in as a scientist, and you have a lot of publications. So, how do you see the evolution in publication of research papers over the decade, according to your journey?
Lot of papers. I do not actually take the credit myself. These are all except 29 papers which I worked as a postdoc. I have 129 papers, if I remember correctly, and the remaining all papers are actually contribution of my students who have actually listened and their ideas, and we have refined. And I never wrote any paper of my students, though in my postdoctoral period, my supervisor wrote all those 29 papers. I never wrote not even a single paper. I corrected only one thing. I insisted all my students to write their own papers. That is exactly what I have done it. This is what is my information I can provide you. Yes, evolution means certainly my paper publications in the United States, they are good. So after coming here also from the NIPER, I could actually produce good journals. One paper now today, 900 citations. That is a research paper, not a review article in Scopus, and it is in Scholar, Google Scholar. It is 1478. Clearly indicates maybe the work is acceptable to others. That means it is reproducible, and they are quoting this particular model, and it is an appreciation to the author, workers also, whoever actually contributed to this work. So that is an evolution. I can talk about it. That particular point.
Okay, I will ask one question here from S. Ashok Kumar from Puducherry. What are your conflict resolution strategies at the lab and organization? For example, lab conflicts over instrument booking or authorship in papers.
Very good. Yes, I faced this particular thing. Number one, and when one of my student, I think he is in a very good pharmaceutical company, he came and I saw the authors. I asked, why did you put this author's name? That is a simple question. He said, I thought this is the practice of the laboratory. I said, how can you draw that conclusion? No, my data is actually present in that particular thing. He said, I did not argue. I called that person, you bring your data. I matched the data. Everyone has to do the standardization procedure. Unless they do the standardization of their technique, so naturally the data they have shown, the data, what it is published in that paper, what he is referring is not from his data. I clearly said with the proof, it is in my practice in the laboratory after completing the work, they have to submit their records. We have kept it for 7 years. This is what is the requirement as per I know the international rules. So I kept it. So in that particular case, conflict with, if they bring with an evidence, certainly we have to accept it. After all, we are human beings. Yes, I might have committed 1 or 2 mistakes, which I may be paying penalty already. I'm not actually not saying no, we are actually completely mistake proof. Yes, we do. But at the same time, we are actually also set an example and we have to prove with an evidence that we have not done that particular job. This is how we do resolve it. Coming to instrument sharing, yes, this is the biggest problem. I do agree. The problem comes where I was just actually written that point also. I could not cover that point. This question what you have asked from Puducherry. Yes, sir. The point is, in a grants, people get their equipment. While writing the grant, they will say 90% occupation for my project, 10% they will show it. I have seen actually these projects whenever actually DST, DBT or any funding agency gives for an equipment, how much actually its occupancy for this project and other. So in that particular case, the principal investigator of that project do not want to allow other persons. I several times tried to solve the problem. The sharing mentality of the principal investigator will always come into picture. They say that thing, the other group people, they do not actually work seriously. The spillage actually is done. They make actually the dirty. They do not take care of these things. Yes, these are the pretty issues. We have to, that's why the cooperation and getting along with the personnel whom you work is essential. Then only we can actually do this particular aspect in a resolution or resolve the problems in a amicable way. And that was my policy from the beginning. Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for extending your valuable time for us. We had learned the true concept, the Junoon for work from you. Thank you
Yes,
so much, sir.
okay, you
Dr.
are
Khalid.
welcome.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much, sir. It's our pleasure to have you here with us, and especially there are a lot more questions. And if you do permit us, then I can share your contact detail with the participant so that they can directly
Sure.
address to you. Okay.
My
also
email address, you know.
Yes,
My
yes,
email
definitely.
address, you know it. Sure.
Yes,
You
I will
can
do
share
that.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Ramarao
Thank you so much.
Yahoo.com. Yahoo.com.
Ramarao P at yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going
Thank
to
you
share
very
that one. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And coming to the next session, let me share my screen. The next session is by Professor Shekhar Simande, the Director General of the CSIR. He is currently the DG of the CSIR, and this talk is scheduled at 3:30 p.m. So we are almost 1 hour from that, 1 hour 15 minutes, and please come at exactly at 3:30 p.m. So enjoy your meals, and I will see you soon. Goodbye for now.